Okay, good evening, everyone. So, yesterday we have left at Ramsar site. I hope that you have gone through the Ramsar site that I told you. Ishan, where we left yesterday. Yes, Ishan. The other people are also joining me. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Okay. So, I'm giving you 2 minutes to just revise and let me know where we left and if there's anything that you have doubt in. I would like to discuss the doubts. I'm giving you 2 minutes for that, and then we'll start with a new topic. Just quickly run through what we have done yesterday. All right. Somebody's writing. Ramsar site was completed. Yes, I have completed Ramsar site. We have also done the studies. We have also talked about some of the Ramsar sites present in the world as well as in India. So all of that being covered. Now you have to go through the all that we have done. Somebody has joined it. Welcome, welcome. Yes. So if anything else which is still needs to be answered, just let me know that. Okay, so shall we should start with the next part, which is biodiversity. Please write down. Please write down biodiversity. Biodiversity. Write down biodiversity. Okay, write down. After going through all that ecosystem, etc., that we have covered, next part is biodiversity. So, what do you understand by biodiversity? The diverse form of life, right? Diverse forms of life. You call it as biodiversity, right? So this diverse form of life can be plants, can be animals, and it can also be your humans, all of that together, from microbes to the top predators to the humans. You consider everything which is living as the form of life. It's a it constituted. It constitutes what? It constitutes biodiverse. Bio means life, diverse means variety. So this is how we are constituting it. Bio means life and diverse means variety. What sort of life I'm talking about? I'm talking about all the living beings present. I'm again repeating, I am considering all the living beings present. Variety means your varied form of life present. Your varied form of life present. Right? So this is living being, this is all varied form of life which is present around the world, in the atmosphere, in the earth. This is known as what? So your atmosphere, your lithosphere, your hydrosphere, all of that constitute what? The interaction of all of them can constitute biosphere. This constitutes biosphere. Again, I am repeating, when I am considering the variety of life on the planet Earth, then I am considering how many parts? I have to consider all the parts. This is called as your atmosphere. This is called as your hydrosphere. And then you have lithosphere. When atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, all of them get combined, right? And there is interaction taking place. This interaction is known as what? It is constituting another component. You call it as biosphere. Interaction of all of that constitutes what? Biosphere. And this biosphere is important for the living organisms. All sort of living organisms. Why? Because they need atmosphere also, lithosphere also, and hydrosphere also in order to live. Can we survive without air? No. That is what your atmosphere. Can we survive without water? No. That is what your hydrosphere. Can we live without vegetation? Vegetation is happening in a lithosphere. That is your soil. So any of which gets imbalanced by any chance, then the survival of a human being, and for that matter, any living being, becomes very difficult. Because here we are not talking about humans only. Because your earth is considered, as I told you, that humans are not that as important as they are considering themselves. Humans are only considered important because they have the highest IQ level, because they can think, they can innovate. That's it. Apart from that, if humans are thinking that they are the only one who have the right to live on the planet, or they will be able to take away the space of the other living being, that is impossible. Because the moment they'll try to take that, it will bring an ecological imbalance, and humans themselves won't be able to live like that. Okay, so there has to be a sort of a balance. There has to be certain mechanisms wherein the humans have to thrive and survive along with the other beings. It cannot happen that they can live without other beings. That is not possible. Okay, so humans, being very smart, what they are trying to do, they're trying to eat up the space of the other living beings, and they have what they have done. They have taken away the space of the plants, the trees, the forest. All of that has been dismantled by the humans for their own interest. Urbanization is what? Dismantling of the areas, whether it's barren, whether it's cultivated, all of that area has been taken away. Why? At the cost of creating urbanization. 60% of urbanization is going to be there by 2030, by 2060. That has been the report. That is the data that has been studied by a report, that it is going to be, this has been estimated that 60% urbanization we will reach by 2050, 2060. So definitely that is going to happen. And at the cost of what? We are eating away the spaces. Only at the cost of it, we are going to take away the space of the other living beings. So that is what humans have done. Now, in the biodiversity, I always tell you one thing, that biodiversity is something which is important in the sense because everyone is dependent on other. As we have seen the food chain and the food webs. Food webs are more realistic. Food chains are just for your, it's a linear sequence just for your basic understanding. But food web, is it complicated? And that is the reality. Food web does exist in reality, but food chains is just for your own simpler understanding. You have break down it in a linear sequence. Similarly, if I talk about this complicated scenario where biodiversity is there, so biodiverse form is formed when there are different interactions taking place between different components. And there are three components which I'm talking right now. I'm talking about atmosphere, I'm talking about biosphere, I'm talking about hydrosphere, right? And the interaction constitutes what? A living being, right? So this living being is what? It is having its own kind of a variety. Okay, if I try to generalize, I'm not taking any specific species right here. I'm taking all these species all together and trying to generalize it into three parts, right? What are these three parts? One is your genetic diversity. Another is your species diversity. What do you mean by genetic and species diversity? And next one is your ecosystem diversity. Now, since we have already read the chapter of ecosystem very thoroughly, so it will be very easy for you to understand what sort of ecosystem does exist. For example, if we were discussing terrestrial ecosystem and we also discussed about the aquatic ecosystem, both have been done in detail. But the point here is this genetic diversity that I'm talking about here is what species diversity is what and ecosystem diversity is what, and why it was needed, why it was required to divide all of that in the three parts. That is my main question. That is fine that we have divided. That is a factual part that I am asking you. Why we have divided, that is what is the main concern. Why? Biodiversity is divided into three parts: genetic diversity, species diversity, ecosystem diversity. That is a factual part. Why have we divided into three parts? That is my real question. That is what I'm curious to know about this. Yes, anyone? Okay. So basically, your diversity. When I talk about a genetic diversity, so what do I mean? There could be one cheetah, right? But there is a possibility that all the cheetahs which are present on the globe should be same. They should be same the way they appear, their behavioral characteristics, their eating habits, their dependency, all of them should be same? No. Because recently only we have seen that we do have two types of cheetah, right? In fact, more. This African and Asian cheetah that we were discussing lately, because of many reasons, are actually different, right? So within cheetah also you have two categories. If I talk about cats, you have many categories under cats. Many, right? Although it is one species, but then you have many categories under cats. Next, I take up another category, I take up elephant. Under elephant also I'm having many characteristics. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? So when I am having so many species under one particular genetics variety I do have under one particular species, so what will happen? It is known as genetic diversity. इसको क्या बोलेंगे आप? Genetic diversity बोलेंगे. Under tiger also I have many types. You have Bengal tiger, you have other tigers. There are many tigers which are present around the world. So all of these are, although I write tiger only after that, but then are they similar looking? No, they are not. All of them are different. क्यों different है? Because their behavioral characteristics is different, their appearance is different, their other habits are different. So all of this, when it's different, what will happen? It will create a different kind of genetic diversity. You call it as genetic diversity. And why the genetic diversity has been developed? It has been developed because of owing to their environment. It has been developed owing to their environment. The environment has changed them a lot. Why it is that Asian cheetahs are different from the African cheetahs? Because African cheetahs have been adapted to a different type of environment. They have evolved in a different way. And Asian one has been evolved in a very different way. So when Asian are evolved in a different way as with respect to the African one, it means what? It has got some changes. Because your environment cannot be same. Your adaptability cannot be same. So what will happen? The way you evolve based on your environment will also be different. That is the thing with Asian cheetah and African. Right? So that's why if you see the classic case, the moment we have got an African cheetah in the Kuno National Park in India, we have taken it from Namibia, right? And when we have introduced in the Kuno National Park in Madhya Pradesh, what has happened? Many of them are not able to survive. Recently, when we have thought of that cubs, when they will reproduce over there, what will happen? They will try to survive, right? Because tigers, cheetahs are what? Cheetahs are the top predators. They are the top predators. And predators are very important to sustain an ecosystem. If they will be not present, what will happen? It will dismantle the whole ecosystem. That is what is required. क्या required है यहाँ पे? Kuno National Park. Kuno National Park में it was required to introduce a cheetah. We didn't have any Asian cheetah present. Asian cheetahs are basically extinct in India. We do have Asian cheetah present only in Iran. That is only six now, around 6 or 7 numbers are there in Iran also. I do not remember the exact numbers. Please search about this. So when only few species are left of Asian cheetah and Iran was not ready to share it with us, so we had the only resort we had is to go to the Namibia, where we asked about asked for certain number of African cheetahs, and we introduced in the Kuno National Park. Therein, it could not survive because environment was different. Genetic diversity is basically owing to its environment. Why penguins are having a big thick fur? Why they are having a thick skin? Why polar bears are having a thick skin? Because they are owing to their environment. They are living in a polar region. The moment they are living in a polar region, what will happen then? Their skin has to be that thick so that they can survive the harsh climate of the polar region. Right? So that is what. Similarly, the birds which are living in very humid, very scorching heat. Again, they do have some insulating methods of keeping their bodies gentle in the time when the climate is getting harsh, either too cold or either too warm. Although they do have other strategies also, they do migrate often whenever they are harsh climates, because they cannot, just like humans, they cannot insulate their bodies whenever it is required. So that is a problem with them too. Right? So this is what I was talking. When we talk about the genetic diversity, within the species also you have many types. And why this genetic diversity is important to study? Because the moment, and this is not with respect to only animals or with respect to only species. If I talk about rice, this is also a species, no? This is also living being. Wheat, rice, your mustard, bajra, even humans. Humans are also a species, right? You do study humans. There are many types of humans also, based on their color, based on where they belong to. You're African, American, Indian, Asian, whatever it is. All of them is also, these are all, I'm considering all of them as species. For me, they are just species. When they differ by their color, by their behavior, by their traits, all of them, then it becomes different entity, different individual for me. So similarly, rice also having many varieties, more than 44 varieties we have of rice. Wheat also many varieties, mustard also many varieties. All of them are having many varieties. When we have many types of varieties, what happens then? It becomes difficult. Difficult to what? Difficult to what? Understand that kitne types ko main padhna to padega na, right? We have to study all of these types. And why these types are important? Because we need to know the differences between them. And what is the utility of one species over other? If we will not know the utility of one species over other, we would not be able to do the better in the technology. When I talk about the idea of crossbreeding, why we do the idea, what is the idea of crossbreeding? Because we know one trait of this particular breed, one trait of this particular species is good. And when we crossbreed, this particular trait can come in the offspring, because this particular trait of this species is better, and then we try to bring it in the offspring also. Right? Similarly, in other species of the plants also and the animals also, we try to bring it that. So this gives us a lot of clarity. That is why genetic diversity holds an important place. For the biotechnology, involves, this holds extremely important place. Why? Because this gives us clarity. Clarity in sense of that whether this particular species is having what advantages, how it is beneficial for the environment, how it is having an edge over the other varieties that is present in the world. This will give an edge over others, right? This is how we understand the genetic diversity. And that is why it is important to study. If you see, all the scientists, all the people who are engaged in the biotechnology, they keep on studying about the different traits of the species. And then this gives us clarity, that gives us scientific advancement. We would not be able to come to the point where we are. We have taken lot, we have done amazing advancements in the different fields of the science, only because we have studied the different kinds of species. All of those experiments, all of that learning, knowledge has been implemented well, right? Your BT cotton, you have studied well what is the problem with the cotton, what kind of a problem it is facing, and then we have been able to introduce the idea of the BT cotton. So now if you see that we are not facing the problem of the pest in the production, right? When we talk about the very high quality of milk, when we talk about it, so all the crossbreeds milk is what the production by the cross breeds, it's amazing, right? So when we talk about the healthier sides, when we talk about the better sides of studying the genetic diversity, they are huge. But again, there are disadvantages also of the genetic diversity. What is that? Just like any other topic, just like any other subject, we have a pros and the cons. Similarly, in this also we will have the lot of pros and the cons. What is that? Genetic diversity should be applied in a very ethical manner. The moment you try to study it a lot and try to use it for illegal or maybe unethical manner, unethical will be a good word, it will try to cause problem for the sustenance. For example, if I talk about even humans, what we are studying these days in a genetic diversity, we are studying that there should be a clone that should be produced for humans. People are talking about the superhumans. Superhumans means the best of the best genes should be there in the offspring, and that would produce a superhuman. And all the traits which is present in the leader or in the renowned people, so all of these traits which are present in them should be there in the offspring, and it will produce a superhuman. So you are basically trying to fabricate a human, which is not ethical at all. The moment you will try to do that, it will dismantle the whole environment. It will dismantle the whole human sustenance. Reason being, because people will get into a lot of competition. They will try to do what? This will become all automated. The moment it will become all automated, we will not run by our emotions. We will not run by the kind of humanity that we guys are having. We will run more of by the technology. And you cannot rely on technology in all the cases, in all the scenarios. Technologies are good as long as you're using them for the good purposes, right? There has to be a limit to which you're using the technology. And only humans know till what point we have to use the technology and till what we have to stop it, right? It is only humans who can decide that, not the robots, right? The robots which are being created by the humans, they do not know where to stop. Humans know that what is ethical and what is not ethical. They have been fed it up. They have been just fed it up with the numbers, data. They're running by the numbers. Numbers are working at their back end, not the emotions, not the righteousness. Okay, so that is what is the utility of genetic diversity. So I have told you from the scratch what do you understand by genetic diversity and what is its utility. Next, when I talk about the species diversity, right? Species diversity is extremely simple to understand. For example, cat is another species, humans are another species, plants is another species, amphibians are another species. For example, your crocodiles, right? Your whales are another species. So when you talk in the terms of species, we are seeing that they are different. right? Although we can club one as the terrestrial animal, one as the predators, one as the amphibian, one as reptiles. All of this categorization can be done. You want to put them in one umbrella, that is something we can always do. But species means different types of animals, different types of plants, humans present. These all are species, different, right? That is also important to study. But when you study on a very deeper level, that is what your genetic. जेनेटिक में क्या कर रहे हैं आप, एक ही स्पीशी के डिफरेंट टाइप्स को आप पढ़ रहे हैं, राइट? So this is what you call it, species diversity. When you come to the ecosystem diversity, ecosystem means there are different types. As we have already studied about ecosystem, that this will be the most easiest one for you to understand. It means terrestrial ecosystem, aquatic ecosystem. Terrestrial का क्या मतलब है? जितना भी आपका ecosystem develop हुआ है on the land, we call it as terrestrial ecosystem. उसमें सारी species आ जाएंगी. All the species will come in that. Ecosystem includes what? The interaction between abiotic and biotic factors. That abiotic and biotic factors is happening where? On the land. And when I talk about the interaction between biotic and abiotic factor in water, you call it as aquatic ecosystem. तो हो गए दोनों अलग. एक हो गया aquatic ecosystem, एक हो गया आपका terrestrial ecosystem. So this is how we are dividing. अब terrestrial ecosystem में भी बहुत सारे types आएंगे, like we have already done. Again, we can repeat the topic, but we have already touched upon this topic superficially, which is terrestrial ecosystem. Terrestrial ecosystem में क्या आ जाएगा? Your forest ecosystem, your grassland ecosystem, your tundra, your boreal, your mountain ecosystem, all of that can come. Right? Aquatic में pond ecosystem, this can come. So this is how we are dividing the, this is what you call it as biodiversity. Again, biodiversity is what? Different types, wherein you have 3 types. We discuss this. And how we have divided, how we have taken the biodiversity, and who was the one who has developed the idea of the biodiversity. There must be some person who has developed the idea of biodiversity, right? Who has studied it very thoroughly, that only he has come with this concept. Okay, just go through this, and if you have any doubt, let me know. In order to stop the biodiversity, only what we are doing, we are trying to manage some of the things. For example, recently I was studying that turtles, right? Turtles are being what? They have been traded. Keeping our turtles means it's a kind of a wealth. What do you call it? It's a kind of a, you showcase your wealth by putting a turtle at your home. Right? It's a kind of a status, a lifestyle that you want to show to your mates by putting a turtle at your home. So this is what people are doing by using some high-end products, which are made up of the skin of the animals. That is what you are doing. So this is what, this is highly detrimental. This is affecting the species and the ecosystem as well. Okay. And there was one news also that today only I was reading that advertisements, because this is everything is interrelated, right? Your biodiversity is getting disrupted by what? Because of the climate change. This is disrupted because of the climate change. If you talk about that, all this climate change which has been disrupted is disrupted because of your intervention, human intervention, whether you talk about urbanization, etc., or use of the fossil fuel. So recently I've studied that the first country which is stopping the use of the plastic advertisements or any sort of advertisements which promotes the fossil fuels is in Italy. The first city which has completely banned the advertisements is Florence in Italy, and the second is, I guess it's Genome. I have to check, it's Genome or what. Okay, it's Genoa. Yes, right. It's Genoa. It's a very recent news that I've studied that Genoa is finally stopping the use of fossil fuel advertisement. There should be no use. There should be no advertisement of fossil fuels. In fact, it included your billboards also. Everything. Okay, anything that you have to ask with respect to this? Offline students, online students, anything that you need to ask? Okay, all clear. Very good. Write down next. Biodiversity. First, you make this table. Have you drawn this table? This is it easily visible to all of you? You have to write genetic, you have to write species, you have to write ecosystem. Is it visible to all of you? Okay, done. Write down now. Biodiversity. और उसमें नीचे लिखेंगे concept of biodiversity. Write down concept of biodiversity. लिखिए. Our ecosystems provide us food. Our ecosystems provide us food, air, air, water, recreation, and spiritual. These are all the utilities that you can write. Spiritual and aesthetical. They provide our ecosystem providers food, air, water, recreation, and spiritual and aesthetical inspiration. Aesthetical inspiration. Aesthetical inspiration. Full stop. Hence, human species cannot exist. Hence, human species cannot exist. Hence, human species cannot exist without its surrounding ecosystem. Hence, human species cannot exist without its surrounding ecosystem. Ecosystem. Full stop. Write down. Biodiversity is the sum of all different species. Biodiversity is the sum of all different species. Biodiversity is sum of all different species of animals, plants, fungi. Is the sum of all different species of animals, plants, fungi, and microbial organisms and microbial organisms living on the planet Earth. Microbial organism living on the planet Earth. Next, biodiversity is the next point. Biodiversity is the contracted form of biodiversity is the biodiversity is the contracted form of all biodiversity is a contracted form of biological diversity is a contracted form of biological diversity. It's a contracted form of biological diversity. That means variability, variability. That means variability. That means variability among living organisms from all sources. That means variability among living organisms from all sources. Variability among living organisms from all sources, terrestrial, including terrestrial, aquatic, terrestrial, aquatic, marine, ecosystem. Terrestrial, aquatic, marine, ecosystem. Marine ecosystems. Full stop. Full stop. This also include ecological complexes. This also include ecological complexes, of which this also include ecological complexes of which they are part. This also include the ecological complexes of which they are a part, as well as diversity, as well as diversity within species. Full stop. Scientists believe there are around 10 million. Scientists believe there are around 10 million different species that inhabit. Scientists believe that there are around 10 million different species that inhabit Earth. Scientists believe that there are around 10 million different species that inhabit Earth. So what does it mean? First, that biodiversity is a contracted form of biological diversity. That means what? Biodiversity क्या है? एक आपका short form है आपका biological diversity का, ठीक है? That's just mean that. And then it means variability among living organisms. Variability किस form में? Living organism, अब वो weeds, plants हो, animals हो, species हो, कुछ भी हो आपका. So from all the sources आप सारे cover करें, terrestrial भी, marine भी, soil भी, everything you are covering in that, ठीक है? So scientists estimate that there are around how many? 10 million species that you are covering. Next, write down. Ecologists have measured biodiversity. Write down. Ecologists have measured biodiversity by taking into account both the number of species Ecologicals have measured biodiversity by taking into account both the number of species and number of individuals of each species. Now scientists, what they are talking, that we will consider both. हम दोनों चीज लेंगे, number of species भी देखेंगे और number of individuals भी देखेंगे in each species. In number of individuals means कितने लोग हैं, कितने लोग means कितनी species, कितने numbers है एक species, ठीक है? इस concept को क्या बोलते हैं? We call it as relative abundance. We call this concept as relative abundance. What do you mean? For example, if I say monkey is a species, right? And in particular monkey species, for example, I'm taking 8 type of a monkey species, and in this I have around 10,000 species of monkey around the globe. This hypothetically I'm taking. Okay, so this will give you what? This will give you an idea about how much abundance of this particular species is, which the concept is known as relative abundance. Okay, so write down. Ecologists have measured biodiversity by taking into account both the number of species, and they taken into account the number of species and number of individuals of each species. And number of individuals of each species, this is known as relative abundance. Write down. Biologists use different measures of biodiversity. Biologists use different measures of biodiversity that includes genetic diversity, to preserve biologically and technologically important elements of biodiversity. What do you mean by that? देखिए, we are dealing into data centers, right? Now these data centers are not related to any numbers now. For example, we used to talk about seed banks and all, right? जैसे हम data centers देखते हैं, what is the idea of the data centers? Is to store the data, right? Store the data with respect to any person, anything, right? So which can help in the marketing campaigns later on. It is said that the data centers are the new oil of the world. Right? If you have the good database, any country which is having a good database, what can happen? They can use it as one of the, it's the untapped potential that a country is possessing. It's considered as an asset now, right? So any sort of data that you're having is considered as an asset. Earlier, the oil is used to be an asset and it's considered as a new oil for the world. So similarly, there's another thing that people are talking about is seed banks. What is the seed bank? What is the idea of seed bank? So basically, whenever you are preserving any sort of a seed, right, for the future use, maybe there could be some kind of calamity which can come, and then you would want to use that seed for the regrowth and for regeneration. So you would need this. That is why these seed banks are stored. Where they are stored, where they are having the setup, they are having a setup in the Svalbard. Svalbard is an area in Arctic region, and it is administered by Norway. Okay. So similarly, with respect to the genetic material also, even India is preparing all these things with respect to it, right? India has also started working on it, that we are preserving the genetic materials. It is important. Even for the humans also. The humans are also preserving their important genetic materials. Why? Because in the future, you never know. You would need all these things in order to study, in order to preserve, in order to regenerate anything. Okay. So you would need all of these things, and you are making provided you are using it ethically. That is one thing that you have to take care, that everything should be done in a limit. Okay, so as long as it is serving the human, as long as is serving the life, everything is fair. The moment you're using it for against it, or maybe you're doing something unethical, then it becomes a bane, right? So write down biodiversity loss. Now, what is the term biodiversity losses? Write down biodiversity loss refers to reduction of biodiversity. Biodiversity loss refers to reduction of biodiversity due to displacement, or extinction of species. Biodiversity loss refers to reduction of biodiversity due to displacement or extinction of species. So there are many species which have been extincted, not only because the human intervention was there, but also because they could not adapt to the changing environment, to the changing surroundings of themselves, right? So this changing environment, basically, some of the species are so good at adapting and evolving that they, any kind of environment, they have figured out something. And that is the concept of Darwin also said, that it is a survival of the fittest. So whenever there is a change in the environment is happening, so the best of the best species, they only survive when they are having that rigor to survive. They can easily adapt to the changes which are present in the environment. Okay. So biodiversity loss refers to the reduction of biodiversity due to displacement or extinction, full stop. The loss of the particular individual species. The loss of the particular individual species, comma, especially if it is not a, especially if it is not a charismatic species, especially if it is not a charismatic species like Bengal tiger, it may appear, it may appear, it may appear and unimportant to some people, right? What do you understand by charismatic species? Any species which is quite dear, quite acceptable among people, right? And people start having a sort of inclination to that species is called charismatic. You can also consider them under what? A flagship species. There are a lot of flagship species that we are having. They're very charismatic. It helps you to aware the people around you. Aware in sense of it will give you a sort of a indication that this particular species is residing over here. Then we don't have to hunt. We don't have to poach. The poaching and hunting will be stopped, right? And the people themselves are aware. Nobody needs to teach them about this. Okay. So, for example, the Great Indian Bustard. This is also extremely important in Rajasthan. People have the high sentiments attached to it, and they do not let it affect. Although the rate of decline, the degradation of that particular species is high, but anyways, people are having sentiments with respect to that. Okay. So write down. However, current accelerated extinction rates. However, current accelerated extinction rates means loss of tens of thousands of species. Okay. Now write down benefits of biodiversity. Write down benefits of biodiversity. What are the huge benefits of biodiversity? Write down. Write down benefits of biodiversity. First is provisioning services like food, clean water. Write down provisioning services like food, clean water, like food, clean water, timber, fiber, and genetic resources and genetic resources, right? Next, regulating services such as climate, floods, regulating services such as climate, floods, provisioning services like food, clean water, fiber, genetic resources, medicines, you can add them. Regulating services such as climate, floods, disease, water quality, and pollination. So one, you will write the provisioning. Provisioning का मतलब है what kind of utility it is giving to us. For example, food, clean water, medicines, all of these is provided by them. Next is regulating such as climate, floods, disease, water quality, pollination. Pollination. The last word is pollination. Water quality, इसके बाद floods के बाद लिखना है आपको water quality and pollination. This can be written a lot in the conclusion. ऐसे terms आप conclusion में बहुत लिख सकते हैं what utility of biodiversity whenever it comes. Then write down cultural services such as recreational. Cultural services such as recreational, aesthetics, cultural services such as recreational, aesthetic and spiritual benefit. Spiritual benefit. What kind of recreation activity that you are having? All the gym corporates, etc. that you go there, right? Ecotourism that you do, all of that are recreational. You sit near the nature. Aesthetic means they look whenever you plant trees, etc. This gives a soothing effect that is that is aesthetic and spiritual. Definitely, all the sacred groups, etc. that has been created, all of that people have a great sentiments attached to it. For example, in Meghalaya, there are many sacred groups which are present also in Kerala. Okay, so these are the important utilities that they are serving, right? And write down next when the last supporting services such as soil formation and nutrient cycle. Supporting services such as soil formation and nutrient cycle. Nutrient cycle. Now write down types of biodiversity. Now from here, you're starting it. The types of biodiversity. Write down the types of biodiversity. And then the first one is diversity includes three types. Diversity includes three types. The first type is, write down, the very first type is genetic diversity. The very first type is genetic diversity. लिखिए. Genetic diversity means the total number of, write down. Okay, take 2 minutes time, just revise what you have done. Whatever we have done in the class, just revise that. I'm giving you 2 minutes time to revise and let me know if you have any doubt. I don't want to run very fast in the class. Okay, just revise all of that and we'll continue with the topic. right? Okay. So now genetic diversity में write down. Genetic diversity means the total number of genetic characteristics. The total number of genetic characteristics the total number of genetic characteristics in the genetic makeup the total number of genetic characteristics in the genetic makeup of the species. मतलब कितना ज्यादा आपका genetic characteristics है in the species is what you call it as genetic characteristics, genetic diversity, right? Write down every species on earth is related to every species on earth is related to every other species. Every species on earth is related to every other species through genetic connection. Every species is related to every other species through genetic connection. Connect. What have you written? Okay, from here, just repeating it again. Genetic total number of genetic characteristics in the genetic makeup of the species. Every species is related to every other species through genetic connections. Genetic connections. The last word is genetic connections. Full stop. Write down. Each individual species possesses genes. Each individual species possesses genes. It possesses genes which are source of own unique features. Possesses genes which are the source of own unique features. Underline the word own unique features, which are the source of own unique features, full stop. Therefore, the more closely related to any two species, therefore, the more closely related any two species are, therefore, the more closely related any two species are, comma, the more genetic informations they will share. Right now, the more two species are related, comma, the more genetic information they share. The more genetic information they share. Comma, and the more similar they will appear. And the more similar they will appear. That means if I talk about African cheetah and Asian cheetah, they are similar looking, right? They are almost similar looking. So can I say that they are sharing the more maximum number of genetic information? Yes. Maximum number of genetic information shared. That's why they can replace another. That's why even if we did not get Asian cheetah from Iran, we could easily replace it from African cheetah because maximum information was shared. It was look-alike. दिखने में तो था ही same. Obviously, they have certain characteristics which are different. मतलब all not almost same it looks. They do have their own differentiation in terms of appearance, but still they are able to manage. They are able to replace it. Okay, slide down. For example, in human beings, the huge variety of write down. For example, in human beings, the huge variety of people's face reflects each individual, each genetic individuality. It reflects each person's. It reflects each person's genetic individuality. Right? Okay, so what is the reason that they are having a genetic diversity? क्या reason होता है that there are different type of genetic diversity that we get to see? So write down the two reasons for that. लिखिए. The two reasons are first, variation in the gene. The variation in the gene. First reason, write down. The variation in the gene. Write down the variation in the gene which all organisms possess. Which all organisms possess. Variation in the gene which all organisms possess. And second, possess, and it is passed on. It is passed on to their offsprings. And it is passed on to their offsprings. Second is gene to he, right? One is gene. Next, second is the changes with respect to environment. Right. Second is the influence of environment. The changes with respect to environment is what you can write, or you can write in another language, the influences of environment on each individual organisms. Right? Influences of environment on each individual organism. Influences of environment on each individual organisms. So these are two things with respect to the genetic diversity. अब genetic diversity क्या बोल रहे हैं? Then again, variation is there. That is good. We are reading it out for the studies. That is good for the scientific advancement. It is read for the different scientific innovations. We do it biotechnologically. If we have to do any advancement, we are reading it out. But again, we have to take care of what? That it should be used in an ethical manner. Okay. Now come to the next part, which you call it as species diversity. Next लिखेंगे species diversity. Write down species diversity लिखिए. The diversity of creatures roaming in our earth. The diversity of the creatures roaming in our earth is astonishing. And by the way, we have been not able to figure out all the species. It is said that there are many, many more species which have been not found. Only few percentage of the species we have been found. And तब भी आपको देखोगे there are variety of species that we can see. There's so many species which are yet to be found and we have not found it. The reason of this is because what we can see is only the species which is found on the earth till where the human can go, can human can reach. The capacity of the human is limited. So till the point the human capacity can reach, only till there we have been able to found the creatures. But what about those areas where the humans have not been able to reach? Maybe in the benthic zone, which is so down, so deep, where certain organisms do exist. The harsh, severe climate, the cold climatic region of polar. There is also a lot of microbes which are present over there, and we have been not able to figure it out. And there is no remedy also present for that. So all of which is a very harsh climate with the unknown areas, very difficult terrains. In all those regions, we have been not able to find the species. So that is what we have. We do not know all the species which are present on the globe. Although we claim that we have been able to find it, but no, it is predicted that there are so much to be found on the earth. Okay. So write down species diversity is defined as a number of species. Species diversity is defined as the number of species. Species diversity is defined as the number of species and abundance of each species and abundance of each species rather living within a particular habitat or region. Living in a particular habitat or region. Living in a particular habitat or region. Full stop. Right on. Species are basic units of biological classification. Species are basic unit of biological classification. They are the basic unit. Basic unit है किस चीज की? Biological classification. Full stop. Hence are normal measures of biological diversity. Full stop. Next point. The number of different species present in an area. The number of different species present in a given area. The number of different species present in a given area is known as species richness. The number of species present in a given area is known as species richness. The number of the species present in a given area is known as species richness. Full stop. Next point. Ecological diversity. Next, we are moving to ecological diversity. Write down. Ecological diversity, write down, refers to ecological diversity refers to number of species in a community of organism. Ecological diversity refers to number of species in a community of organisms and dynamic interplay between them Full stop. It is the variation in the ecosystems. It is the variation in the ecosystems found in a region or variation in ecosystem over the whole planet, or variation of ecosystem over the whole planet. Full stop. Write down. Measuring the ecological diversity is difficult. Measuring the ecological diversity is difficult because each of Earth's ecosystem merges into ecosystem around it. Merges into ecosystem surrounding it. Okay. Okay. So let's further discuss about this. Just revise. If you have any doubt, please ask. Okay. So there are certain measures that I would like to tell you. For example, we have done species richness, right? In the species richness, we can talk about the alpha diversity and the beta diversity and the gamma diversity. Very small species measures are they. Just write down measures of biodiversity and write down under it. Species richness. This is important. So biodiversity measures लिखेंगे पहले. So first criteria that we have taken is species richness. You already know what is the species richness. This is the number of species present in a given area. Number of species present in an given area is known as species richness. That is what you call it as species richness. Okay. So write down. Example लिखेंगे. Types of species richness by R.H. Whittaker, who has given this. Write down. Types of species richness by R.H. Whittaker. This is the spelling. Please write down R.H. Whittaker. Species richness given by R.H. Whittaker, an American ecologist, 1960. An American ecologist from 1960. Right? Write down. We have three types. Write down the types. First is alpha diversity. The first one is alpha diversity. Write down. First one is alpha diversity. लिखिए. Alpha diversity refers to species richness within a specific area, comma, community. It is a species richness within a specific area, comma, community or ecosystem or ecosystem. Full stop. It tells us how many species are present. It tells us how many species are present in a relatively homogeneous habitat. Right. Next point, it indicates local biodiversity. It indicates local biodiversity. आपको ये पता चलेगा कि कम्युनिटी में कितना आपके numbers of species present है, तो क्या पता आएगा कि diversity, local biodiversity indicate करेगा. There are two indexes which has been used to measure the alpha diversity. Write down the two indexes are Shannon index और इसको Simpson's index भी बोलते हैं. Right? The index which we are using is Shannon index or Simpson index. दोनों में से कुछ भी. ठीक है? All right. Next part आप देखेंगे. Write down beta diversity. Beta diversity. Write down beta diversity. BETA. Beta diversity. Under the species richness, this is the second type, beta diversity. Write down. Beta diversity, okay. One is alpha written, next is beta. Beta diversity, write down. Beta diversity refers to the differences in species. Beta diversity refers to the differences in the species composition between two habitats. Between two habitats. Now we have taken two habitats. In the two habitats, we have what? We are doing comparison. Comparison of what? The different kind of species which are present in the group. Okay. So write down beta diversity. Beta diversity is the difference in species composition between two habitats / communities. Full stop. Communities. Full stop. It reflects species turnover. It reflects species turnover from one diversity, from one environment. It reflects species turnover from one environment to another. Write down high beta diversity means two habitats have two different, very different species. अगर ये दो habitats लिए हमने 1 and 2, and if their beta diversity is high, it would mean that these two diversities having very different species. They are having very different species. Types of species are entirely different, but these two habitats, if they are having a low diversity, low beta diversity, that beta diversity would mean that the species which are present in both are almost same, right? So please write down in your words. I'll give you a hint. Beta diversity means two habitats have very different species, and when the value is low, it means that they are almost the same. They share similar species. They share similar species. The last one is write down gamma diversity. Write down gamma diversity लिखिए. Gamma diversity refers to total species richness across large region. It refers to total species richness over large area. It refers to total species richness over large area or region, combining multiple ecosystems. Combining multiple ecosystems. Combining multiple ecosystems. Full stop. First point, it represents, first point under it, it represents regional or landscape level diversity. It represents regional or landscape diversity. Second point, it represents regional or landscape diversity. Second point, it influenced by both alpha and beta. It is influenced by both alpha and beta. And the last one is influenced by both alpha and beta. For example, आप लिख सकते हैं your Western Ghats. Your Western Ghats is what? It's a very big area, right? So this area, total area, what we are doing, we are analyzing that in the whole area, how much is the diversity? Diversity is present or not. So जितना भी आपका Western Ghats, it's very high, species richness is quite high in this. So can I say that the gamma diversity can be calculated here? And when I'm calculating the gamma diversity, I am also checking all the sorts, I'm taking all the sorts of ecosystem, whether it's aquatic, terrestrial, under terrestrial also grassland, forest, all of them will be counted. So when they will be counted, it is being measured in a very large area. Okay, it is not about the local area, it's not about particular habitat, it's about a very large area, which are consisted many of ecosystems, and these many ecosystems are giving us the fine detail of how many species are present over here. Okay, so write down Western Ghats, which includes forest, grasslands, rivers, and wetlands. Right. So this is all about it. Your species richness and diversity. Please take down the PYQ. Have you done the previous class PYQ? Write down, why is species diversity higher in tropics? Why is, I'll write down on the page, just write down, why is species diversity higher in tropics? Explain. Okay, this is what you have to do. All right. Thank you so much, class. If you have any doubt, please let me know. All the online students, offline, if you have any doubt, please let me know. And yes, tomorrow you're having the test of the previous lecture that we have done. I mean, from the environmental geography only you are having the test. So please do attend it tomorrow, right? It will be updated on the portal. And if somebody is coming here and want to write the test, that is also completely fine. Okay, please do collect your test from the admin tomorrow. All right. Thank you so much, class.